Howdy, guys, and welcome to Cliff Notes, and welcome to night number 23 of the overnight feed recaps for Big Brother season 26. A good Saturday to y'all. All right. Yesterday, we had the nomination ceremony, a little different than typical nominations because we had the deep fake HOH power coming into play. Angela HOH, she never apparently even got the chance to stand up and announce names. It was all on Quinn, who is expected, used his power to take over the entire HOH this week. We had nominations. It took a while for nominations. Didn't happen until about 4:30 or so Big Brother time. So it was a little bit later in the day than typical. And although we didn't see the noms, as I mentioned, it sounds like Angela never even got the chance to stand up and say, I pick, nominate so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so. Now, as soon as the ceremony started out, it sounds like maybe we had an AI version of Angela up there instead of Ainsley making these picks. But at the end, it was, which is better for Angela. Why stand up and make picks that you're immediately going to have taken over anyway, get blood on your hands? She hadn't have any blood at all on her hands based on this week since you never even had to nominate. Instead, we had Quinn doing so. Quinn uses his deep fake power and he nominates Tucker, Mackenzie, and Cedric. Any surprises there? Not really. Tucker is the main target. Cedric had volunteered. The idea is that Cedric volunteered so that he could compete against Tucker, hopefully win veto, if not that, the BBAI arena, to try to keep Tucker on the block until Thursday. Kind of the same reason Mackenzie's up there. Mackenzie's a dual reason, I guess. One is she's athletic enough that maybe she can keep Tucker from winning something. But if she had to go home, that would be okay too. Now, having said all that, Tucker's a prime target. Mackenzie is not target number 2, as we're about to talk about right now, because we have Chelsea and Cedric talking right after we get back from the nomination ceremony itself. Chelsea is saying that Tucker or Rubina need to go home this week. Apparently, the thinking is this. If Tucker wins veto, then Rubina goes up as the renom and she becomes target number 1 for Thursday. Mackenzie is on the block in hopes that she's athletic enough to beat Tucker in the veto or the AI BB arena. Between her and Cedric, the goal was to do everything possible to keep Tucker on the block until the vote actually occurs on Thursday. Cedric, he volunteered, right? It's easy to volunteer, but now when the pavement hits the road, you actually see your name up on the board. You start worrying a little bit about it. Cedric did say if he wins the veto, I think it's Chelsea who said, if you win the veto, are you going to take yourself off? He's like, yeah, yeah, absolutely. There was some talk about maybe he wouldn't, but he says, yeah, I'm going to use the veto on myself. He's hoping that if things just don't go right, if he has to sit on the block eviction night against Tucker, he's wondering if he would have the votes to survive over Tucker. And Chelsea's reminding him, saying, look, you've got the Pentagon, you've got the collective backing you up, you should be good. I think Cedric does not want to be in the nomination seat come Thursday night votes. So maybe thinking volunteering isn't quite as exciting as he thought it was going to be. All right, we've got that. We have a little fun and games taking place yesterday in a few different ways. Quinn dressing up in a maroon suit, acting like an attorney, and just kind of having some fun with the whole one-on-ones that he did. We'll talk about that in a second. Little pranks going on as well. We've got Cam sabotaging the milk in the refrigerator by putting ranch dressing in it. And then later he and Tucker were adding Worcestershire sauce and some kind of fish sauce to the Dr. Pepper. Don't be messing with my milk or Dr. Pepper if I'm in that house. Now, we played a few pranks during my season, but we never went after the entire gallon of milk or Dr. Peppers. There's always melted ice in old cups, things like that. Yeah, they're tainting some of the food. Some people may not appreciate that as much as others. You got to be careful with these pranks and how you're playing them. But they have sabotaged the milk. They've sabotaged the Dr. Pepper. Here's my thing. We only got so much milk in the Big Brother house. When you ran out, you could ask for it from Big Brother. Sometimes you get a little more, sometimes not. Same way with the Dr. Pepper. Come Wednesday, if they're low on it because of this prank, we'll see if that has any retributions. But yeah, Cam and Tucker trying to have a little fun in the house after nominations, and I do get that. All right, we've got Quinn and Tucker and T-Core and Chemo all talking to each other. Quinn is wanting to make sure that Tucker is okay mentally. How's your mental standing, Tucker? He says, I kind of called you out. I put you on the block. I've done a lot of things against you. I hope you understand it's just a game. I just want to see where you're at with all of this, Tucker. Tucker's saying he's good. It's game. He's saying trash talking. He just pumps me up. I'm good. I'll thrive on it, Quinn. I don't really care. Tucker and Quinn are doing a good job of keeping perspective that this is indeed just a game to some degree. We also saw a little flare up. The feed's cut, so we didn't get a lot of it, but apparently Tucker and Quinn maybe had it out. Tucker's very upset or Quinn's very upset that Tucker had called him a liar about some of the stuff. We already know that Tucker doesn't like being called a liar either. So they definitely have their flare-ups, but at least in this point in time, they're separating the game from the personal and saying, we're all good. It's just part of the game. Tucker says, yeah, I'm playing a character. You're playing a character. We're just in here trying to have fun. So they seem to be okay with it. But Tucker does say that Rubina, on the other hand, is more upset. She takes it more personally. She didn't even give him a hug after nominations. Apparently, she did not like the fact that Tucker was saying, bring it on, and no worries, I don't care, whatever, that he was very flippant during the nomination ceremony. Later, Rubina mentions this to T-Core while they're sitting out by the hammock or on the hammock. She's saying, Tucker can do that. He's just Tucker. He's going to say that kind of stuff, go on and on with it. She says, but MJ's sitting right next to him, scared to death, and he just needs to chill out a little bit. And apparently Tucker had called her out and said, yeah, you're trying to tell me what to say. You're trying to control my game. And so they had a little bit of a disagreement based on him just doing what Tucker does in terms of nominations and things like that. Now, eventually Rubina does go inside to the kitchen and gives him a hug. They hug it out and everything is good. So not the end of the world. But it does show that there's a little bit of friction right now between Rubina and Tucker, trying to handle liking each other, playing the game, doing what's best for their game, helping the other person, etc. So we did see a little bit of that. Now, here's something that I just wanted to mention. This was directed more at Tucker, but I'm going to direct this a little bit more to Quinn. Quinn needs to be careful about making everything too comedic when he has a power. He dressed up in a maroon suit. He had rings all on his fingers. He's talking like an attorney and just trying to make light, have fun with the nomination process, all in good fun. No problem with that. But when you do that, while you have power, while people are campaigning, arguing for their lives, some people are fighting for their lives right now. They aren't in the mood for humor, and they may not feel too kindly to Quinn not taking this part of the process seriously. When you're playing pranks during downtime, just having fun with everyone, most people laugh along and no big deal. But when it's happening as part of the strategy, the movement of the game itself, some people, and Rubina may be one of those that get a little bit more upset about it. I know during my season, I called Tommy out at one point because as I was getting ready to go on the block, he's laughing and having fun. And I said, some of us aren't really, it isn't a comedic time right now, Tommy. And you got to be careful about it. People will remember that, Quinn, on down the road if you don't treat this seriously enough. So there's a fine line that you got to walk. All right. We've got Tucker telling Rubina if he gets house guest choice that he's going to pick Quinn to go up in a block because he said, give the people what they want. Let us compete against each other. Sure, that's not what Rubina wants to hear, right? Although, having said that, if he picks Quinn, that does improve the chances that Tucker could still be on the block. So from a gameplay standpoint, maybe that could benefit Rubina. I don't actually, yeah, who knows? We'll find out. But yeah, he says if he gets house guest choice, he's going to pick Quinn to compete in the veto competition. We've got Joseph talking about Angela, just saying, I can't be mad at her. I know, there's things happen. All he said, but I can't be mad at her because I know she still supports me. He says, I've been taught to respect my elders. I now know how hard it is for her in here, that she's lonely, that she's knowing her kids are watching her. And I just feel for her. He's saying, I look at her and I see my own mom. If my mom came in here, she'd be horrible at the game. And I just feel bad for Angela. I feel like people are dragging on the older folks a little bit just because of Kenny and Angela and maybe some of the things that have happened in the house this season. Don't discount the older people playing the game. It can be done. Trust me, it can be done. So, Joseph, I appreciate the sympathy towards Angela and all of that, but Don't be making a lot of assumptions that older people don't fit in that house. All right, just my own little personal soapbox there. All right, we've got Joseph talking to Cedric, telling Cedric that some complicated story about if he gets picked for veto and wins veto, he's planning to pull Cedric off the block. So he's come up with a story about why he would justify pulling Cedric off, that it would be based on promises made earlier and when Cedric was HOH, on and on and on and on. Of course, he has to get picked first. Then he has to win veto. Does Joseph even really want to win veto if it comes down to it? All of that has to happen before this even matters. I think more than anything else, this is just a way for Joseph to let Cedric know that he's got his back, that he's still tight with him. And so just in case, I got you covered, Cedric, realizing that just in case may be very low probability. All right, we've got Chelsea talking to T-Core. She's telling T-Core that Mackenzie needs to go next, or she needs to go in the next 2 weeks. Maybe Tucker now, but then Mackenzie after that. That Mackenzie's got to go in the next 2 weeks because she is following me around everywhere. Chelsea's getting tired that she can't go into a room with Chelsea not showing up right behind her. It may only get worse for the next couple of days, Chelsea, as Mackenzie tries to campaign with the anticipation that she could be on the block come Thursday night. So she's a little frustrated with Chelsea right now. She's telling T-Core that if they play it smart, the two of them could go all the way. And they just need to make sure they continue to work together. All right, we've got Cam walking in on Chelsea doing one of her camera talks. He walks in while she's complaining about his socks and his clothes. He's telling Chelsea, say, you better not be putting my clothes on blast. If you only knew, Cam, everything that's been said in these little Chelsea talks. But yeah, he kind of walks in on her and she kind of sitting right there going on about it at the time. All right, we've got Tucker talking to Joseph, telling him that if this is a veto with prizes, remember, you win something, you can either take the veto or you can take one of the prizes. You have some choices. Tucker saying if it's that competition, he's taking the prize. He wants the prize. He wants to get something out of this as well. He feels like if he takes a prize and maybe lets Angela win the veto, Angela is going to use a veto on Tucker as payback for last week. I think she probably would. So he feels like she may protect him. So he's got someone else fighting for the veto in the game. And that even if he doesn't get veto, he still feels very good. He says, I'll just win the BB AI arena. So whatever, I'm taking the prize. Don't be getting too cocky, Tucker. I think that ship sailed a long time ago, right? But yeah, he's feeling like he doesn't need the veto. He'd rather have the prize because he has another chance to pull himself off the block. One of these times it isn't going to work the way you think it's going to work, Tucker. All right, we've got Mackenzie and Leah talking to each other. Mackenzie is saying that if she ends up still on the block come Thursday night of the live eviction, she's thinking that she would have a good chance against Cedric, but she's worried about anyone else that she could be on the block against. Bad feed, Mackenzie. I think Cedric would probably survive over Mackenzie. Mackenzie needs to make sure she's not on the block Thursday because I think she could go home against a lot of people. If she's on the block against Tucker, Tucker probably goes home. If she's on the block against Rubina, Rubina probably goes home. Anyone else, I think it's Mackenzie getting home. So she does not want to be on the block against Cedric. Anyone else, much better. All right, we've got MJ campaigning low-key last night. Mainly things like talking to Joseph, saying that, hey, look, if I was to survive this week, my target next week will be Angela. I've got no one. I don't have any alliances, Joseph. I'm just all by myself, so I'm not a threat to anyone. And even if I win HOH, I'm going after Angela. So y'all are safe. So why in the world would you get rid of me? So that's the kind of campaigning that's taking place. Now, again, we did see that Chelsea complained about Angela. Chelsea complained about Mackenzie falling around. She talked about that right before Chelsea went to bed. So, you gotta be careful with the campaigning. It probably is too early to put the full court press on anyone. Chelsea, I didn't think I mentioned it. Chelsea talked about Mackenzie falling around, but right before bed, Chelsea talked about that Mackenzie had already come up and asked her for a vote within like half an hour of the nomination ceremony. Too early for that. Just plant seeds in people's minds right now about how you could benefit their game without being too upfront about it. And then as you get closer to Thursday, you could start ramping it up a little bit. But yeah, Chelsea's complaining a little bit about Mackenzie already asking her vote and campaigning and all that. Chelsea also said during this camera talk that she thinks if things go according to plan and the way she thinks they're going to work, Cedric's going to win veto. Rubina will go up in his place. Tucker then would throw the AI BB arena to protect Rubina, to save her. And at that point, then he would go home. Chelsea's complaining about having to work with everyone else in the house. She doesn't call them out by names, but she says 2 people that snore and 2 people who don't know how to play the game, dumb moves and all of that. She's just feeling that she's playing with a bunch of folks that she doesn't want to be playing the game with necessarily. But yeah, she's thinking that Tucker's going to go home as part of this big romantic gesture to save Rubina. That would be interesting, wouldn't it? We'll find out. She says something about I'm playing with too much stupid in the house. So yeah, not a lot of respect for some of the other players in the house right now, but she's thinking Tucker goes home to save Rubina. All right, we've got Quinn and T-Core and Chemo talking, saying that if Tucker hadn't, I think it's Quinn who mentions this. He says, look, if Tucker hadn't used that veto last week on Angela, then Mackenzie wouldn't have gone up. She wouldn't have used her power as a result. And now her power would have been used this week instead. America would be making their picks this week on who the third nominee was going to be. Very, very interesting. Yeah, how would this week have gone if we had the power to pick the third person? It would have been probably Tucker and maybe still Cedric, and then we'd be picking the third person. That could have been interesting as well. We probably still would have put, Quinn. Is Quinn eligible? I don't remember. Who knows? It's not to be. But yeah, Quinn's pointing that out. All right, we've got Rubina and Quinn and T-Core and Chemo talking. Still continuing conversation. Rubina's talking and crying a little bit about her possible showmance with Tucker, how she handles it, that she's not sure that's really what needs to be happening inside the house. The others, Quinn and T-Core and Chemo, are saying, look, we got you. If that's what you want to do, we support you and do what you need to do or what you want to do. So they're kind of saying it's fine if you need to go explore that a little bit. After Quinn leaves, though, Rubina, talking to T-Core and Chemo, says, I'm a little bit worried that Quinn might, if he has to do a renom, that he may put me up as a renom just because of my closeness to Tucker. Bingo. That's exactly what the plan is right now, Rubina. And yes, it is because of your closeness to Tucker. Quinn even talked at one point about saying, hey, maybe, I need to tell Tucker before the AI BB arena that if he pulls himself off the block, it's not Mackenzie that we're sending out the door. We're going to send Rubina out the door. And he's wondering if he can kind of rattle Tucker a little bit by saying something like that. So yeah, Rubina understands the danger of looking too close to the house's target number 1 right now. All right, we've got Quinn and Brooklyn talking. Quinn is complaining about Tucker. As much as they say it's just a game and all that, he's still complaining about Tucker, says he's fixated on me. He keeps going around asking everyone, I think it was Cam or Chemo, I can't remember, asking if they have a final 2 with Quinn. He's apparently still trying to drill and figure out just who all Quinn had final 2s with. Quinn's just a little frustrated that it's all about Quinn as far as Tucker is concerned. I don't think it'll change. I think that's just the way Tucker is. All right, we've got T-Core and Chemo and Quinn are talking. Quinn is feeling comfortable with the collective. That's the word he used. I feel comfortable with the collective. He's saying, but we do need to worry about Cam and Cedric and Brooklyn and Chelsea as we get closer to the jury. So he's calling out the people in collective that he's not going to ride with to the end. We got to be careful about those. T-Core is saying that she feels like everyone in the collective feels like they're way too safe right now. And she thinks that she's at the bottom of that. So maybe some things need to happen. She's been hinting to Quinn all night long that maybe there's a different direction. And we're going to start hearing that hashed out as the latter half of the evening. But she's saying, I'm at the bottom of it. So why should I stick around too much? T-Core, in fact, is suggesting to Quinn that, hey, it's a shame that you and Tucker are just not getting along. What are the chances that you could squash that beef with him and maybe we could come up with something else? Quinn is saying, I can't trust Tucker, and I don't think he's going to trust me. Yeah, I get what you're saying, T-Core, but I just don't think that I can trust Tucker enough to make that happen. Quinn is saying that he could work with Leah, but T-Core saying, I'm not sure Leah's where you need to be looking towards in order to help your game long term. She could be dangerous to your game long term. So Leah, what she's suggesting instead, maybe Rubina could work with us a little bit. And Tucker, or Quinn, is thinking that But yeah, maybe they could work with Rubina once Tucker is gone. So if we get Tucker out, Rubina has no one. We'll pull her in, and maybe we can make that happen. T-Core wanting to protect Rubina. We've heard that said multiple times. She's doing it right here by suggesting that Rubina over Leah is maybe a better choice for Quinn going forward. And she's certainly throwing in as well that hey, maybe getting out Tucker isn't in your best game move right now. Certainly, T-Core's thinking is not in her best game move, and we'll find out here in just a second. So T-Core and Chemo then continuing the conversation just amongst themselves. T-Core's telling Chemo that yeah, I tried, but Quinn just doesn't want to work with Tucker. We can keep on trying it, but she's saying that that she's afraid, as Rubina brought up, that she could get put up based on her closeness to Tucker. She's saying we need to tell Rubina that she needs to friend zone Tucker for a little while so that she doesn't become the target if Tucker gets pulled off the block. I think it's too late for that. I truly do. Even before the potential showmance, Rubina already was on the short list of targets by a bunch of people. So I don't think it matters at this point, but she's saying we need to tell Rubina to lay off a little bit because she's in a lot more danger than maybe we thought she was originally. She says something about that Rubina seems to be on everyone's target list, except for her and Chemo and Brooklyn and Mackenzie, I think. So she said, we got to protect her, tell her to lay off hanging out with Tucker and all of that. She's saying, I know that we talked about trying to get Quinn and Tucker to work back together, but she's saying Quinn wants to make a big move, which he thinks is taking out Tucker. Chemo is saying, oh, yeah, I get that, saying, but maybe we could suggest to Quinn that pulling in Tucker and working together would be a big move also, potentially an even bigger move. I get the sentiment of these two. I truly do. And I kind of like the way they're playing the game in that they're thinking long term and they're trying to protect themselves by keeping some bigger targets that people will continue to go after. I like all of that. I just think they're underestimating some of the emotions that are taking place and the trust issues that have developed between Tucker and Quinn. I don't think it's going to work the way they want it to work. But hey, good marks for trying it. All right, so he's saying maybe though we could suggest that that's the move, the big move he can talk about on down the road. They're also talking about the collective that they know they're at the bottom. They're saying, yeah, maybe it's too early for us to make a big move. T-Core said, I'm not here to play a passive game, but at the same time, they're saying maybe it's a little too early for us to make a big move. We'll ride with the collective until we get to the jury phase. Once we get to the jury phase, we need to shake this up a little bit. Chemo is talking about them being again at the bottom of the collective. And here's one of the reasons they want to keep Tucker. They want to keep Tucker to use as a pawn. They use that word, to use as a pawn to take out others. That as long as Tucker's in the game, as long as there's some loyalty with them, Tucker will go after some of these other people. Other people will go after Tucker. It works to their advantage to keep some of the strong players in the house. So that's why they're wanting to try to hold on to Tucker. And they've got Rubina. Remember, they have their little alliance here. So that's part of that is Rubina and Tucker and Chemo. T-Core, Rubina, T-Core, Chemo, Rubina, Tucker, and Brooklyn. The 5 points. It took me a while to get there, but they've got that. They're trying to protect Tucker and Rubina as part of that little alliance. So they've mentioned that. They're agreeing that if either one of them is picked to play in the veto and they win the veto, that they're going to leave the noms exactly the same in order to protect Rubina. They know she'll go up if the nominations change. So if they win, they're going to leave it alone and just let the cards lie where they are. And they said they're going to tell Tucker that Rubina is the replacement if he saves himself. If anyone pulls himself off the block, Rubina is going up. So they're going to tell him that and let him know that that's why they aren't going to use a veto on him if they are to win this thing. They're afraid that if they use the veto and that Tucker, for example, if they use the veto on Cedric, then Tucker's going to get mad at him. Yes, he would. And so they're planning to make sure that Tucker's aware of what's going on here. They're talking about that, but they're also saying that if they don't use the veto to pull Cedric off, that Cedric will be mad at him. So it's got him in a little bit of a rough situation. I think T-Core at one point says, I didn't think that this early we'd have to be worrying about Cedric versus Rubina, who we save and who we leave up there. It's not really what we counted on. They're talking about the worst case situation would be if Cedric and Rubina both find themselves on the block come Thursday night for the live eviction episode. In that case, they would have to show their hand in terms of alliance. Do they stay with the collective? Do they stay with the 5 points alliance? Someone's not going to be happy. That's their worst case situation that they want to try to avoid, if at all possible. Their plan, if they could make it work, is to save Tucker and Rubina at this point by getting out McKenzie this week and then getting Tucker and Quinn together. Sounds fine. It's a great plan if you can make it work. I don't think you can make it work. And there you go, guys. 3 o'clock or so, Big Brother time. They finally call it quits. Everyone's in bed getting ready for the veto nominations or the veto draws this morning and the veto competition. I don't know who's going to be playing hard, who's not going to be playing so hard. Obviously, Tucker's going to be playing hard. Cedric's going to be playing hard. Angela, maybe, just in order to return the favor and save Tucker. I could see that. But just to let y'all know, little late getting this out today. You know, life and some technical issues. A little bit late getting out. They just had the veto draw. I now know and can report to you that Brooklyn and Joseph have been picked to play in the competition alongside the 3 nominees and Angela. So Joseph, if he wins the veto, very well could then be forced to or would choose to pull Cedric off the block and explain to everyone why he's doing that, even if they aren't tight and all of that, which makes me wonder, is Joseph going to play hardcore? He won't obviously throw it, but he may not want to win this thing and be forced to kind of declare some loyalty to Cedric. We'll find out. So there you have it, guys. An eventful evening, some plans afoot. Certainly the folks at the bottom of the collective realizing that they're at the bottom and making plans for the future. And certainly we've got this Tucker Rubina narrative continues to take place. We'll see how that all pans out. Guys, y'all have a fantastic Saturday. I will be back tomorrow. We'll know who the veto winner is, and then we can talk about all kinds of scenarios, because Lord knows the house guests are going to be talking about all kinds of scenarios as well. Until then, guys, SKD 143. Cheers, my friends.